Hello everyone and welcome back to APWC. Today we will be talking about Captain Marvel 2, or as we all know it as the Marvels. I'll bifurcate the points into 3 categories: the good, the bad and the ugly. So without wasting any time, let's begin. Ready. The good. The trio that consists of Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan felt fresh. There wasn't a lot of friction and I'm glad they didn't waste a lot of time in showcasing those emotions. Also, the best part about this film is how they all tell each other about their powers. So even if you don't know anything about them, still you can understand how their powers function. All in all, it was like watching Marvel's superhero version of Charlie's Angels. Okay, maybe that's a bad example. Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel is such a perfect casting choice. Her goofiness and sheer admiration towards Captain Marvel looks great. The way she swoons and fangirls over Captain Marvel is understandable, as Brie Larson is pretty amazing. Let's talk about the VFX part. This movie came in the same year as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, DCU's Flash and Blue Beetle. And yet, the VFX of the Marvels is visually stunning. It never looked glitchy or over the top. In fact, in such movies, the color palette becomes a question. But somehow they have managed to adapt a decent color grading scheme. Now, let's move on to the bad side. And this segment begins with the villain. I am not a fan of the Kree Skrull villain arc, especially after what I saw in Captain Marvel and Secret Invasion. Daya Bain as the villain, wait, that doesn't feel right. Sorry.
क्या जोक मारा भाई Woo!
Dar-Ben as the villain has the right motive, but it never feels justified. Her villainic arc has no substance and it feels repetitive. It's almost like we have seen it a million times and can easily predict what will happen next. The quantum and entanglement setup was very well addressed, but somewhere it drops that hat in between, and you just lose focus on who is getting teleported by whom. Initially it did feel fresh, but after a certain point it felt boring. From a creative standpoint, I do agree that to bring this trio together, we needed to have this kind of an arrangement. Moving on to the ugly side. The storyline has a smooth progression, but doesn't really end up on the same note. It doesn't feel like a movie, and in my opinion, it should be considered as an extended episode of Miss Marvel. In fact, it would have garnered a lot more viewership if it would have been episode 7 of Miss Marvel. They have tactfully joined the MCU with X-Men in the post-credit scene, but I am not sure how much time it will take for this conjoined universes to come to fruition. Maybe it will be addressed in Deadpool 3, but for that we have to wait till July 26th. Verdict. I will happily give 3 out of 5 stars for the Marvels. It is genuinely a good flick, and if you have been following MCU since day 1, then you should definitely watch it. But if I have to be honest, it isn't impactful and falls under the passable and easily forgettable category, unlike how the old MCU movies pre-Endgame used to be. And that is a common problem with almost all Phase 4 and Phase 5 films that have been released so far. Barring a few exceptions like No Way Home, Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. For a moment, even if I consider the entire Phase 4 and 5, still the impact that Phase 1, 2 and 3 had is unfathomable and incomparable. However, The Marvels is any day better than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and Thor: Love and Thunder. Also, to be honest, I couldn't wrap my head around the unnecessary hatred that the film had received. It just wasn't justified. Although, I think it might be because of the fact that Loki's season 2 finale had released on the same day as the Marvels, and we all know that Loki's epic finale was a banger. This might have heavily contributed to the polarizing opinions that people had after watching the Marvels. One more point that needs to be highlighted, and this is in regards to MCU in general. The excessive load dumping that MCU began since 2021 has made it impossible to follow and remember every event that has happened in the MCU. And I guess it's high time that MCU slows down and focuses on providing quality content as opposed to excessive quantities of stories which have zero impact and no relation towards the progress of MCU. That's all for this video, guys. Comment down your thoughts on the Marvels, and I will see you guys in the next one. Till then, bye.